met. But, you know, I'm Lisa A. Smith, and I pretty much slang plants for a living. I teach, preach, talk about, promote how to use a whole food plant-based diet to reverse and prevent chronic disease, right? As opposed to pharmaceutical drugs first, right? So how can nutrition be a viable treatment plan specifically for people of color? And so full time, I am the founder of a company called the Black Health Academy, where our mission is to eradicate the most common chronic diseases which disproportionately impact people of color. I'm also the founder of a company called Professionally Fit, where we do executive wellness and corporate wellness. And as you mentioned, I'm the executive director of the Plant Based Nutrition Support Group, which is a nonprofit. And I am also the creator of a nutrition course called Farm to Table, which I teach once or twice per quarter. And I absolutely love it. So I love teaching plant-based nutrition. I love speaking to it, and specifically within a realm of how can we support people of color to healing ourselves from the inside out and not relying on Western medicine any longer to lead for our health.
Thank you, thank you. That is like a mouthful, and you are doing everything. And are you making sure you're taking care of yourself and self-care? Because I mean, you look radiant. Your skin is always glowing, looking beautiful. So yes. I mean, just make sure you're self-care.
Yeah. Well, I just recently, and I mean like 2 weeks ago, committed to taking one day off per week. So I'm off on Fridays now. And so that's a thing. And I haven't committed to a day off since I became an entrepreneur back in 2015. And so I'm committed to sticking to it this time. And I'm really, like you said, like pouring into other areas of my life just as intentional as I am about my career. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I do want to, a lot of everything that you do revolves around, just health, wellness, eating right. And I think that, kind of being faced with, some of the uncertainties of the pandemic has kind of like made things obvious. And so let's talk about the American meat heavy diet and how it can contribute to diseases, and particularly the COVID-19 outbreak. For instance, this is believed to have originated in a Chinese wet market, and that sold seafood, live animals, birds, exotic animals, and all for human consumptions. And it seems to be that there is a correlation between foodborne illnesses from eating or touching animals that are infected, and sort of these zoonotic sort of ailments and afflictions. And this isn't something new, because it's not just the coronavirus, but the E. coli 0157. I don't know if any of you guys remember that. Back in like 1993, there was a big giant outbreak, and there was Jack in the Box restaurants. And then like probably like 1999, 2000, there was another outbreak with E. coli and spinach, but it was because of animals. So tell us a little bit more about that, those features, and those factors that contribute to what we eat, and diseases that are popping up for the first time in centuries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, Ernestine. You're absolutely right. Where many of the diseases that humans are plagued with or we're exposed to are zoonotic diseases, right? And so it's literally the transmission from animal to human. And a lot of these zoonotic diseases, salmonella, rabies, influenza, like bird flu, like you said, and now coronavirus. And so it's been very common, and it's essentially, for years, as long as we've been on this planet, we've been destroying our planet, right? And really disrupting the sacred ground that we are supposed to be sharing with other sentient beings. And so this is a byproduct of that partially, right? And then not to mention, we're actually consuming them. And so the consumption of these animals also leads to disease, right? And now we're looking at more chronic common diseases that we not necessarily make the connection with things like everything from cancer to high blood pressure to type 2 diabetes to obesity, right? It's also a byproduct of consuming animal products. And so we're getting it from both ends, honestly. And that's why part of the reason why I promote a more whole food plant-based diet, because the removal of animal products, at least from your plate, can significantly not only extend your life expectancy, but reduce your chances of contracting many of these preventable illnesses.
Thank you for that. You talked a little bit about just all of these pre-existing kind of conditions contributing to not only like, okay, one, we shouldn't be out there, eating so many animals. And, there are documentaries after documentary that kind of really say that a plant-based diet is going to be something that's going to be better for you. You're going to feel more energetic. And even the documentary, The Game Changers, I showed that to, family and relatives. And I was just saying that, like, you don't need protein, and you get your protein from plants. So I think there are a lot of misnomers out there, and I'm really glad that you're out there doing this work to bring awareness to the fact that we don't need to be eating plants or eating. We do need to be eating plants. We don't need to be eating all these animals. We don't need to get our protein exclusively from animals, and that these are big contributors. To not only disease, and they are going to exacerbate this problem over time, especially if you look at the industry. Like, the way that farms are set up, yeah, maybe a couple years back, like when our grandparents were younger, they were eating these animals, but they weren't being pumped with hormones, and they weren't being, but even then, it's just like we live in a different era now. So it would just behoove us to go ahead and adapt a plant-based, whole food diet, because you're going to feel better, and we're living more sedentary lifestyles. So I think that you can mitigate all of these things like high blood pressure and diabetes with adopting this lifestyle.
Yes.
I know I'm going to be a champion of it.
Yay.
I mean, like, and that's the thing. I've attended your workshop, and I know I want to do farm to table for real, which is
Okay. Okay.
because I've gone to I think is it still happening virtually, the Saturday workshops?
Yep. Every first Saturday of the month. Yes.
First Saturday of the month, everybody sign up for the workshops so that you can learn more about how you even start this process. And Lisa is really animated. She gets up there and she tells you, and she even told me truths about sugar that I didn't want to hear because to me, I can give up meat, I can give up dairy, and I can give up all that stuff, but I love my sweets. So, but it's just really important to take care of our health, which leads me into another question that I have about. I noticed, like, you talked about high blood pressure, you talked about diabetes, and a lot of these pre-existing conditions, and most of the classes are full of Black women who are wanting to get better at health. And I think in some ways there is kind of there's a disparity when it comes to Black women in health, which is why I originally wanted to reach out to you to kind of talk about some of these things, and then it's been compounded because of the coronavirus. So let's talk about the social determinants of health, and the disparities in the African American community that have been sort of writ large by the pandemic itself. And how can we mitigate future disasters by recognizing these problems, and then making sure that our elected officials step up and make these things a priority, make policies and things that kind of focus on regulation, one,
Yeah.
and then two, education, and making sure that we have actual plans to be able to help fix this problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So, first part of the question, what can we do as individuals? First, you always want to start, change. Um, the most effective change starts in the microcosm of your own being, in your own circle, in your own home, right? And then if we do it right, it ripples out into, the community, and then the culture, right? And then the world. And so I would highly recommend that you start by getting back into the driver's seat of your own health by educating yourself on alternative ways to either reverse chronic disease or continue to prevent it for yourself. A lot of times, in my opinion, especially people of color, we've leaned a little too heavily on Western medicine practitioners to lead us into health, right? And we have seen time and time again that doesn't always produce positive outcomes. Everything from being told that, this chronic disease runs in your family, and so you must be on prescribed medications for the rest of your life for it, when really we know the behaviors that cause that disease is what runs in the family. And that's what makes the biggest difference. And so, and everything from not even recommending a change in nutrition or exercise regimen to mitigate some of these things, right? Just jumping straight to pills, powders, and procedures is problematic. And so, first thing I would love for to see people of color do, and everyone really, is position yourself to get a little more educated on, number one, whatever condition you're dealing with, right? What causes that? What does that look like? What's really happening in your body and your brain? And then, what holistic practice may you be able to implement to reverse it, right? And nutrition plays a huge role in every single chronic condition you can think of. So get into one of these nutrition classes, read a book, get some of these nutrition science books, right? Get a coach, do what needs to be done to position yourself to have a say, to have a voice at your next doctor's appointment, right? As opposed to letting their directive being the final say, right? And so make sure you give yourself a voice. Then from a political standpoint, just yesterday, a church reached out to me, and he asked me to come speak to his congregation, a church out in Ypsilanti, but he's from the Inkster area. And a couple of weeks ago, he reached out to me and asked would I speak. But then yesterday, he followed up to confirm everything. And, one of the things he said to me, he said, I'm from the Inkster area, and I really want to make this a big event. I want you to come out and speak about health, and I want it to be a big deal. He said, so today I sat down with the mayor of Inkster, and I told him about you and, got him on board, and we would love for you to come in for, a 3-part series to educate. And my point here is this: we, politicians, it's a must that you collaborate more with community leaders, right? The people who are a direct access to the community, right? And so hearing him say, I'm a preacher, I have this church, and I sat down with the mayor of this city to bring a health and wellness initiative to the city, that's how it works, right? And so those of us who are not plugged in to the people in that way, we must plug into the people who are plugged into the people in that way. And that's what I have found to be quite effective, is that, whether it's a leader of a church, a civic organization, a community initiative, a community garden, an urban garden initiative, who's running those initiatives in your community? Who's running your farmers market in your community? And as a politician, reach out to them and build those relationships so that you can create a culture of health in that community.
And I think that's a really valid point, because I know that I started the Harperwood Soup, which is a micro granting community dinner for like business ideas and creative projects. And, the first one we had, and it was just out of coincidence, sheer coincidence. And I think it kind of is really, it's telling as to where national trends are going as far as health and better eating. Every single idea had something to do with either plant-based, nutrition and eating, whole foods, plant-based diet, veganism, or community gardening. So every single idea that was pitched. And so there was actually a vegan dessert idea that was the winner of the first soup we had. And so that's kind of like, it was a community idea, because I don't know, I feel like I'm the kind of person where I got involved in politics because I want to be the catalyst for creating new processes. And so I love it that when, people do come to me and say, hey, we want to start this initiative. And, I want to really keep those kind of things going, because, you had folks from like, the mayor to the judge, everybody in the community, they were just like, well, I want to be more plant-based and I want to, but I just don't know that much about it. And so I think initiatives like that, where you can partner with, not only, council people and mayors, but also with state senators and, state representatives and eventually Congress people. So I think that's really, to me, a lot more impactful, which is why I asked a question about getting policy involved in actually changing things, because, it really, really, I feel like we always know that there are, social health disparities, but what can we actively do about making them change instead of just giving lip service? Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important that folks like you are putting in the groundwork to be able to, say, hey, well, I have a plan in place and you are so consistent, and you are such a role model to me because of your consistency. And I remember something you said to me, I'm kind of going off on a little tangent, but something you said to me, which actually is not a tangent because it's leading into my next question. But you said, you were talking about like your the way that you're just consistently going out there and you're going to be at everything. And, in the very beginning, starting off with like your speaking engagements, you would take those things and you would just be there, and people would, you said almost like people would get sick of seeing you, where it's just like you're at everything, you're showing up, you're giving 110%. And I think that kind of is a testament to the entrepreneurial spirit. And I had to just tell my little sister, who's also like, she works in nutrition and health, Patricia, shout out to Patricia, hope you're watching. And she was just saying that, like, oh, I feel like I can't do it. I feel like I tried and it didn't work. But it's just, I think you really, really have to keep going. And you're just out there and you're doing amazing things. And I feel like people know your name. You're speaking at things. I'm always seeing your face on something. So I just love that. And I think it really is a testament to, you have people who are putting in the groundwork. And, if, cities and politicians and, policymakers are trying to make changes, then they definitely have somebody in you who's a consultant, who they can come to, and, so there's no excuse.
Oh,
No. But yeah, I do also want to, and I think last question, and I'll see if there are an audience, if anybody's out there watching, please feel free to drop in some comments in the chat, in the Dropbox. Feel free to message me. And if you have any questions for Lisa, feel free to just let us know. But my last question is around kind of those same elements. Well, we want to talk about the correlation between fitness, food, health, and confidence. I think that confidence and that tenacity, like, one, tell us where you got your drive and your tenacity and, your gumption from.
yeah.
And then about like how maybe the fitness and the health and the food contributed to how you feel about yourself, and then how you project yourself out into the world with positive messages to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thank you for the compliment, Ernestine. With regard to the consistency, one of the quotes that we give in my Farm to Table course says, consistency is the formula for instant success. And that's really the key right there, just showing up. Every time, show up, and it makes a huge difference, because people do business with you and book you, not necessarily because of your resume and your bio, but really it's about recency. When's the last time they saw you or heard from you? And so being consistent is really important. But, with regard to, fitness, food, health, and how does that tie into confidence in the way you show up? My own personal health journey, I used to be 65 pounds heavier than what I am now. And this was before I was a plant-based vegan. And the thing that jump-started my journey into health was literally the lack of confidence, walking past a mirror and not being happy with what I saw. And so in January of 2012, I decided to take matters into my own hands, hired my first personal trainer, and the rest is history. I was able to lose 65 pounds, lived on multiple continents, got back to the US and decided to ditch, social work and go into the health and wellness realm. And since then, I've started 2 companies, written books, created courses, to run in somebody else's health and wellness company. It's amazing and I love it. But the thing that's given me that confidence is what I call becoming professionally fit. And so being professionally fit is all about how your physical and mental health impacts your ability to perform in business, right? So how I show up as a leader with my staff, as a speaker, as a representative of my community has a lot to do with how I take care of myself behind closed doors. And so drinking the water, so I'm not insecure about my skin when I'm always speaking or on camera, right? Exercising, so I'm comfortable in my body and I'm not afraid to speak up and speak out because people are going to be looking at me. Eating the plants, so that I can recall all the nutrition science because there's somebody in the audience whose life I need to save, right? Avoiding putting the junk in my body so that way I can continue to stay off of prescription drugs, because if I go down, there's 3 businesses behind me that go down. And so I have a huge responsibility to eat right, not just for my life expectancy, but literally for the people who follow me, listen to me, and rely on me to be a leader in the plant-based world, especially for people of color. And so my health is not only tied to my confidence, it's tied to my bottom line, it's tied to my livelihood, and it's tied to how I contribute to society, ensuring that I make it a better place than which I found it. And so I drink my water every day. And I like to say, I teach this because I do it. I don't do it because I teach it, if that makes sense, right? So I live the plant-based lifestyle full out, right? I'm not vegan, I'm plant-based, and that can be two different things. And so I live it full out. And the reason I'm able to speak and teach with so much conviction is because confidence comes from evidence. And so because I have lived it so much, I have evidence of every single thing I say that it does, right? And so that confidence comes from evidence, and that evidence comes from living it.
I love that. I love that. That confidence comes from evidence, and it really it becomes you. You know, because
Yeah.
you're taking on something, you kind of want to have intentionality behind something you do. And I think this would be a great philosophy where, like, wait a minute, and all those wonderful things I rattled off about you, you know, is like life coaching and confidence coaching. Is that part of the resume too? Because I really do.
I do life coaching and business coaching. I don't advertise it. And so I tell like my students about it when they graduate from the table, but it's not on my website. It's not anything I ever even post about on social media. But several people have asked me to be their life coach and their business coach. And so at the top of 2019, I finally gave in and started doing it. So I do both.
Okay, because I do really feel like inspired, and I think, you know, it kind of gets down to, you know, the brass tacks, which is, you know, it really confidence and, you know, just feeling good about yourself, especially for like us women out here in the world as we try to navigate through spaces that, you know, maybe are historically held by men, or maybe, you know, our voices are the underestimated ones. I really think that, you know, just kind of really owning it, and then getting down to like why it is, like the essence of why it is that you do what you do. And I think, you know, your journey with, you know, being plant-based is, okay, I'm doing this, but what's the intentionality behind it? And let me do the research and let me educate others, because I have really enjoyed this and I've learned so much about, you know, the science behind it, and how to, you know, how plants are medicine.
Yeah.
um, it's funny because every time I feel like I'm coming down with something or sniffles, like I'll have like all my natural remedies. I'll have, you know, the garlic, the turmeric, the ginger, and I swear 9 times out of 10, they're just going to do way more than, you know, just the over the counter medicine. And then
Mm-hmm.
you hit on this point about Western medicine. And I do feel that Western medicine just kind of coats the problem. And, you know, I know that a lot of more, you know, non-traditional medicines like an Eastern medicine, or medicines that stem from, you know, indigenous populations, you know, they're going to be more herbal. They're going to be more that natural healing to assist your body with its natural process.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really glad that you touched on that. And I'm just going to see, as we wrap up here, if there are any questions from the audience, please feel free to share, ask, comments, and, you know, oh my gosh. So Courtney says, hello, beauties. Love the plant-based life. And so drop any comments if you do have any, and then we can always answer them later. But I do want to ask if there are any words of wisdom to give us as we maybe even try to navigate the world of being more plant-based, because I keep saying I'm vegan adjacent, because eggs and butter, I cannot. And then ice cream, it's so hard. It is.
Ernie, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
It's only to this point, like maybe like once a month, but because I know that the I quit a lot of the dairy products because it was I'm lactose intolerant.
Mhm.
So, you know, ice cream every once in a while. But oh, okay. So somebody here says that they're hopping on late, but they're going to catch the replay to understand all of the conversation because they are vegan and pescatarian. So yes, drop any questions you have, and then I'll be sure to, you know, tag Lisa and we can get back to you. But yes, as we close off, words of wisdom and advice for us, you know, navigating the world of plant-based.
Yes. So first understand that the absence of disease is not the presence of health. And so not having a diagnosis, not being on any prescription drugs, that's the lowest the bar should be set, right? That's not optimal, right? And so just because you went to the doctor and all your numbers were good, and you don't have a diagnosis doesn't necessarily make you healthy. It's the intentional practice every day, right? Are you moving? Are you drinking the water? Are you eating the plants? Have you overcome any potential food addictions? Are you surrounding yourself with the right ecosystem and the right people so that you can thrive mentally and physically? Are you emotionally healthy? And so the absence of disease is not the presence of health. So you have to take action every single day in your health to perpetuate health, right? Also, with the plant-based diet, remember that the key word is plant. Let's keep it real basic here. Not eating animal products doesn't make you plant-based. So just because you take chicken and turkey and fish off your plate, you're not automatically plant-based. You got to eat the plant. Spoiler alert. You got to eat the plants, y'all. And so all of this processed vegan food or retaining your addictions to SOS, salt, oil, and sugar, that's all problematic. And you could still potentially succumb to the very diseases you're trying to avoid. And so you have to make your diet 80 to 90% label free. You want to be drinking half of your healthy body weight in ounces of water every day. And you want to do the work to get over your addictions to salt, oil, and sugar, right? And so ways where you can jumpstart that. I teach a free nutritional class every first Saturday of the month called Get Planted, Introduction to a Whole Food Plant-Based Lifestyle. And you can register for that for free. It's virtual at my website at www.lisaangelsmith.com, lisaangelsmith.com. Also on my website as well, you'll see other speaking engagements. There's like 5 or 6 free lectures that you can download if you want to listen to me lecture on this content. You can also enroll in my upcoming Farm to Table course. My Farm to Table course is a 6-week intensive where I take you from where you are to adopting a more whole food plant-based diet. The next one starts September 14th. It'll be virtual from 7 to 9:30 p.m. EST. We're about at 50% capacity. We will sell out. And so get into a course, get coaching, or you can totally join the Black Health Academy for 100% free. Health doesn't have to cost you, right? Education does not have to cost you. So I created a platform where people of color can show up and get this information at no charge to them. And so that's the blackhealthacademy.com, the blackhealthacademy.com. And we are an accredited institution, and we are dropping our first plant-based certification coming up in just a couple of months here, right? So we'll be certifying people in plant-based nutrition. I'm so excited. We need more people of color in this field, more representation. So I took it upon myself to lead from the front there. And so a wealth of opportunity and a wealth of access for you. So again, my personal website is lisaangelsmith.com. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Lisa Angel Smith. And so I would love for you to come get this health.
Yes, yes. And I'll link all of those events and, all of that information here in the doobly-doo. And so, yeah, thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.
Every time I talk to you, I'm inspired and I'm uplifted, and I just feel like I can take on the world. So thank you so much for coming on and kind of talking about the policy behind health and how, we can, push the needle forward and prevent things like this, like the pandemic, and, just prevent illness in our own, ways. And so I would love to continue having conversations with you more about, just for example, zero waste lifestyles and recycling. I know that my community had to end our recycling programs, but another conversation for another day, and love to have you back.
I'd love to.
You guys know where to find her. Thank you all for tuning in out there live on Facebook. And if you have any questions, I will let you answer all these questions and everything. So thank you for tuning in.
Thanks. Bye.